of images. That's what in fact, it might be for all of you. I'm not sure, but I'm broadening out the discussion of that just a little bit tonight, and I did for the recording for today as well, to include audio and video elements, in case anybody's interested in those. But yeah, for most of you guys, it'll be images. And that'll be it, just those 3 pages. So like the H1 plus a big hero image on the home page, some text content, which you guys are finding online, including a link, an external link to where you got the content from, and then some kind of gallery page, which it doesn't have to have only media elements. It can have like descriptions on each one, especially if it's like more of a tutorial page that you're planning. But that part's up to you. My only requirement is that it has multiple media elements on it. So that's what we're going to do for this week, and that's it. I figured that's enough. You guys focus on getting like the... well, I would probably do the gallery page first just because it's going to take the most time. Not because that's a natural progression of things. The natural progression, I would say, finish the index page first and then finish like the text-heavy about page second and then the gallery page. But you might want to start on the gallery page just because it might just take a little bit longer to assemble the thing. So the recording for today that I did was about image optimization and compression of video. That's what I did. Now, the image optimization thing is totally different. I've done that lecture a whole bunch of times, but I've never done it in Microsoft Photo app before. It's always been Photoshop because, you know, the schools that I taught at, they were design schools, so they all had Photoshop handy. But I know you guys might not, and probably don't, so we can do that. So Microsoft Photo is, well, why mince words? It's a crappy app. It really is. Like a lot of things that Microsoft does. As I say in the recording, I don't mean to bash on them singularly. I mean, the preview app in Macintosh is the equivalent, and it's pretty crappy too, but in different ways. This one, I'm giving this one a hard time on Microsoft Photos. It seems almost as if they designed it specifically to make it difficult to use. Like some of the stuff that they do in there, like you have to do a save as instead of just saving at certain steps of it. It's like they were trying to make this as inefficient a process as possible, trying to make sure that it's not ever to be considered a tool for professionals. I don't know. But it is possible, and that's what I did it in. So check out that demo. It's important to understand that you don't want to have these huge, ginormous image files, right? And it's, no matter how often I say that, I know there's some students, they're going to turn something in, it's going to have these amazing, like, 30 meg images in there with just like, you know, the megapixels will be unbelievable. And it'll be something that they took with their DSLR camera or something like that, and no optimization or anything like that. The trouble is that, you know, this, like if your website were to get published on the web, then, you know, people have to download those images. And if they're really, really huge, especially if they wind up, you know, getting crunched down with CSS and people are watching this image slowly load, it's like no one wants to sit there and watch that, right? It's a choke point for usability and accessibility for your website. So 2 things. You want to make sure that you get it down to a reasonable pixel dimension, first off. I think a reasonable amount to start off with if you have no idea. Images that are posted to Instagram are, at most, the cap on them is 1080 pixels wide. And the cap on the height is 1350 pixels tall. So I don't know. I think 1080 is not a bad place to start out from. You could make it a bit larger than that if you're pretty sure, like, yeah, I want to design this for wide, you know, desktop screens as well. So maybe you could take it up to 1200 or something like that, 1400 maybe. But no, like, multiple thousand, you know, pixel wide images. So yeah, get the dimensions down, and then when you save as a JPEG, it'll crunch the file down for you to some extent. That's what JPEGs are all about. JPEGs are all about getting small file sizes basically by over-compressing the image. And you wind up with, if you do it too much, then you can get these weird-looking, gnarly artifacts on the photos. I'm sure you guys have all seen it online before. You get like the weird, like blocky little gradients all over the place, like at a skyline or something like that. That happens if you compress it by too much. So that's it, and that's the most important thing. And then the other thing that I did was the video, and I had to find online services for that. And I had to find 2 different online services for that, one of which was to resize the video. So I had this ginormous video that the student submitted with his project for front-end web development. And it's not ginormous. I mean, it's HD size, 1920 pixels wide. So I used one service to get it down to the 1080, I think it was. And then you had to pay in order to get them to compress it after that. So you just download it, and then you go to a different free service to actually compress the thing. And I got it down to about a third of the original file size. Now, audio and video in HTML5, audio and video elements, it is streaming. So it's not like, even if you have a large file, you're not going to be forcing people to download the whole thing all at once. But even so, the smaller the file size is a general thing, the fewer choke points you're going to have on your website. So it's always something to pay attention to. There are online audio compressors too. I personally don't think that audio files are nearly as big an issue unless they're really, really long ones. Like if you've got like an hour and a half podcast to post or something like that, then yeah, compression becomes important. But beyond that, if you're just talking like 5-minute songs or something like that, I don't think that's a big deal. Audio files tend to be much smaller than video files for probably obvious reasons.
Are we gonna go over like how to put in like some websites you load them and then it automatically plays like a YouTube video, but it's like clearly like a YouTube video. Like if you click it, it'll take you to YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's using API information. And I don't remember off the top of my head how to do it, but I've done it before. And they've actually got an embed code right there in YouTube, as far as I recall. Like you can literally just right-click on the video, and one of your options is to grab the embed code, and then you can just slap that code right into your own HTML page. And so it's still hosted. The video is still hosted on YouTube, but they stream it through your website. I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. That's the way it used to work. Remind me again when we get into lab, and we can check that out and make sure that that's right.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good idea. You could do a gallery of YouTube videos streaming in. That would work. Not what I had in mind for the project, but I don't see why not. Okay, cool. So the pre-class recording was about the optimization and the compression. And now the demonstration is going to be also recorded, is the code. Like, how do you get this stuff into your web page? So I just grabbed some HTML files from my last demo to use with those asset files that I just uploaded to the stream in a zip file. You guys can grab any of the HTML files you've got either in fact, you could just, for practice, just put it in your gallery page. You can always comment out that block of code later on and replace it with your own stuff. But in about 2 minutes or so, I'm going to go ahead and get started just with a gallery page that I've already got. I'm using the gallery page that I did on Friday, I think, when I just kind of created that skeleton HTML for, a conceptual website, the 4 pages like you guys are doing. So let me make sure that I've got that all handy. Here, 7 index, and I'm going to be looking at gallery. Don't worry, I'll share screen in just a moment, in case this is all being recorded. So trust. Okay, I thought I had told Visual Studio Code to trust all workspaces in the future, but obviously that didn't take. As someone was saying last week that you guys have to keep redoing it over and over again, I guess I'm going to have to as well. Not a big deal, I guess. Just another Microsoft weirdity. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and share screen here. I'm already recording. And I don't think this will take very long, actually. I mean, I think the important thing with video is just understanding that you've got to resize it and then optimize it for the web, the media files. And beyond that, getting the actual code in there, it's a piece of cake. In HTML4, it was a big deal. Like, you had to use object elements and do all kinds of crazy. I can't remember what the attribute names were on those things. It was bad enough that I didn't have any of it memorized. I had like this boilerplate markup code that I would copy and paste whenever I needed something and then just change a couple of things. But it's HTML5. whole world is different now. So let's take a look at the folder here. So here's my root folder for Unit 7. I think it's Unit 7 today. And I should have brought that over as well. But if you watched the video, the recording from before class, I had two folders inside of here. I had the assets folder and the resources folder, and I want to re-emphasize that you want to keep those separate. A resources subfolder is they are source media files. They're not files that you're planning on directly putting into your web page or putting up onto the server or anything like that. They are the really large images and the uncompressed videos that you're starting with, the ones that you do not want to edit over in case you need to make changes again later on. And then you put your actual assets into another folder. If all you're using is images, then just call it images. That's the default. But if you're using other kinds of media files like I've got here, there's also, you can call it assets, or you can call it media or something like that. So I've got these are the four images and the video file that I compressed in the recording before class. And then this is an audio file as well. So let's go ahead and just get these guys into my gallery page, which here it is in the browser. And here is the code. And I don't think I'm going to do the preview thing right now. I don't want to overload it with media files. I'll just go ahead and pop over to the browser when I want to preview it. Okay, so let's see, where are we going here? I'm in the main element, and I probably won't use headings for this. I just want to show you guys how to get the code in there. And I will do an ID for each of this one, and I will do ID equals images. And then I'll do another section, ID equals audio. Video. There we go. So we're ready to go. So getting the image in there, I'll show you the basic image tag, because that's the thing that's been in HTML forever. And then I'll show you there is some semantic structuring that goes along with an image element that you can and should use, and it can also be used for the audio and video elements as well. But first things first, just the image element. You might think it's image like this, but it's actually just IMG. Here, let me zoom in a bit for you guys. Do let me know if like the code is ever coming through too small or too grainy for you guys to read. I don't want that to happen. Okay, so the image element, it's an empty element so that it does not get a closing tag like the HR or the BR, horizontal rule or line break, or the meta element. Might seem strange, like, wait a minute, surely an image is considered content. Yeah, but it's not something that can't be sourced right there in the attributes, and that's what you do. In the attributes here, you tell the browser where to find the image, and then you give it the text that's going to show up in the browser in case the image goes missing. And that one, both of those are considered critical. In fact, if I do an image element without the second attribute that I was just talking about, my page will not validate, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So the first attribute is a source, SRC. So just like image, it's not spelled out in full, but it's reduced to a 3-letter abbreviation. Same thing, source is SRC, and equals, and then you put in the pathway to the image. So in this case, my images, I almost always have them in the images subfolder, but in this case, I've got them inside assets, and then slash. So the pathways that you point to an image are exactly like the pathways that you use for in-page links. So that means, like, if images were in the same folder as the HTML file that it's linking to them or sourcing them, then all you would need is the file name. But as it is, I need to put in the folder name followed by a slash, and this tells the browser, oh, okay, this thing's a folder that I can find inside the same directory, and then inside of that, I'm going to look for the file. So let's check out and see what we got here. So inside my assets, these are the images. First I'll put in, no, I'll just go ahead and put in the thumbnails here. Oh, so it's 300. I recommend for the thumbnail sketches, well, watch the video, you'll see if you haven't already, cropping the image instead of just resizing it, and then also giving it a name where you say like how large this image is. Or you could do just TH at the end of it to indicate a thumbnail, whatever. So mine's puppyhead 300.jpg. So now you got to watch out with these sometimes because there are different ways that the file extension might be encoded. And this is what you see the most often, but it might be like a capital JPG. It might be a lowercase JPEG, which is Joint Photographics Experts Group. That's the actual formal name of the file. So I'm just going to try this and see. We may have to change this guy depending on whether it shows up in the browser or not. So if I save this and I go back to my browser and I refresh, and it's okay, see, this is, you guys have all seen this before too. There's this little broken image there. So it's not finding the thing. So let me take a closer look at the images themselves. I'm going to go to View and Details and see what it can tell me. And isn't it a place, how do you see, like I want to see the actual file extensions here. How do you do that in...
Show file extension. So you gotta go to View and then Show.
Ah, thank you. There we go. Okay, so these are showing up as capital JPG. So let's go ahead and try that.
Did you meant to put the equal signs right there between head and 300?
Oh no, I sure didn't. Thank you. Actually,
That's
let's try it without that.
That's probably what it was, I think.
Yeah, it's probably what it was actually. Aha, there we go. Thank you. Who said that?
That was me.
I don't know who me is.
Alfredo.
Alfredo. Okay, extra credit, Alfredo. And remind me so I can get that written down into the grade book. Okay, so yeah, that was all it was. I was thinking maybe we need to capitalize these things. I've seen that happen before, but I was actually a little surprised that a modern browser would do it. But yeah, so this wound up being the problem. Let's just love typos and coding. So let me just show you this guy right here. I'm going to take this piece of code, just this one image element, and I'm going to go to open up a new tab and go to the validator tool. And I'm just going to go to text input, and of course they give you this default page here. And I'm just going to put in this image here, and I'm going to leave the rest of their content there. And I'm going to go to check, and I'm getting an error. Really? And that looks like valid HTML to me. But an image element must have an alt attribute, except under certain conditions, which I don't even know what this means. I've never seen any conditions where an image did not require an alt attribute. So that's the second attribute that you've got to get in there. So alt, which stands for alternative, and it was what I was saying before. It's the text that will show up if the image fails to load. And so that's considered a basic accessibility feature that you've got to get in there. So you could just say something like, I don't know, puppy head. And by the way, notice that as far as validation goes, all that's required is that there exists an alt attribute, or an alt tag as it's called. I didn't put anything in there, right? There's nothing there. But if I check it, boom, the error goes away. So that's the only thing validator tool cares about. So validation, I mean, it can help you up to a certain point, but like this doesn't show you like best practices or actually the right way to do it. It just kind of satisfies the validation criteria. But if I put alt equals puppy head in here, and I'm not going to see it in the browser right off the bat here. If I just refresh, there's no change. It used to be that if you hovered over an image, it would act like a title element, and the alt would actually show up in a tooltip. They don't do it that way anymore. Let's just try something here. I'm going to put this equals back in here so that we're breaking the source again. And go back over here and refresh and see what's showing up now. It used to be just this broken image link icon, but now it shows that icon and it shows the alt text. And actually, I can't even select it. It's acting like an image here. In fact, I can open image in a new tab and all that. But it's just, it's showing there because the image doesn't. So that's what the alt is for, but it's critical to get in there.
And what was the 300? I'm sorry.
This is just my thumbnail image. So if I take that out and refresh, then I get the larger image here.
So it's like positioning?
Well, it's really about our viewability or UX. I can either put in all of the big images here, or I can put in small thumbnail images that the user can tap on that will take you to the next image, the large image. And that's what I'm recommending that you guys do. You don't need to, but let's take a look at what that will look like. So I'm going to get this 300 back again. And I'm going to wrap this image in an anchor. We learned about anchor elements last class or last week sometime, Thursday, something like that. So ahref equals, and instead of linking to another HTML page, I'm going to link to the larger image. This one is just puppyhead.jpg. And let's use Old English speaking there. And you can put a title on that if you want to. And then I'm going to take this thumbnail image and put it inside of here. So I now have the small image, the thumbnail image that I created, and it's linking to the larger image. So I go back over here and refresh. There is the thumbnail image again. It's now a link. If I tap on it, it takes me to the big image. Now it's opening up in the same tab, which I don't want. A lot of users will just assume this opened up in a new tab or in some kind of hover state, and then close this. Then of course you're dumping them out of your website, which isn't good for anybody. So I'm going to use that target that I know we did briefly last week. Target equals underscore blank, like so. And what that tells the browser is when the user taps on this, open that link in a new window. So I refresh over here. This is still a link. Now when I tap on it, opens up in a new tab. I close the tab, and I'm right back here again still. So if you do use this, and you decide to use the thumbnail images and link to the larger images, this is the way I recommend doing it. So that you're opening up in a new window like this. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the semantic structuring for a media element. So again, we think of this as being for the image element, and it's the way it's usually used, but it can also be used for audio and visual elements. So the tag, the element, is a figure element, like so. And I'm going to take this image and once again nest it inside of the figure. And this is just kind of like the main and header and section elements. They don't immediately show up or show any difference, although this actually might. Some of the browsers, I believe, yeah, it puts a little bit of padding around it. But you can always change that in CSS if you want to. But basically, it's like remember your math textbooks in high school where it say, yeah, this is figure 4.1, where it talks about the exponential, whatever, who knows what. That's what the figure name refers to. It's referring to the figure, like an image that goes along with the text. That's the idea. It also comes with another element in here called a fig caption, right? Like an image caption. And then you can put some descriptive text in there if you want to. This is a puppy head. I go back over here. And then again, the whole thing's wrapped in an anchor, so that's why this shows up as link text. And now the whole thing is clickable. Opens in a new tab. Close it again. We've got that here. Now, let's do it again. That's what you got to watch out for, like these block level elements. So this actually is clickable all the way out to the right-hand side here. And that might actually be a bit of a usability issue. So I might want to refigure this so that I've just got the anchor just surrounding the image and not the entire figure there. Now let's see here. So something like this, I guess. And then the stuff out here is not clickable, just the image again. So that's probably what I would want to do. So that's it as far as getting images in there. It's pretty simple, huh? Like I said, the main thing is with sizing them and optimizing them beforehand. So any questions about any of this code here? Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and check out some of the audio and video elements here. So again, we can use figure for this. And since we did upstairs, I'll go ahead and do the same thing down here. And this is going to be an audio element. So like so, which, this is the audio equivalent of the image element. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to put a source, like the image has a source attribute. There's actually a source element that we can put inside in between the opening and closing audio tags, but this one is not SRC. This one's actually spelled out source. So, like source. And actually it's an empty element. So let's do SRC equals. So it's a source element with a source attribute, just like the image has a source attribute. And this is going to be assets, and let's see, what audio file did I put in there? For pavan.mp3 with a capital P. So for-pavan.mp3. Looks like code is smart enough to notice that it's there. And it's kind of recommended that we do a type with this one. So this is an AUG, this is MP3, obviously. Type equals audio /mpeg, like so. And that ought to do it. A lot of times you see older code, you would have a couple of sources in here. So you would save your audio file as an MP3, and then you'd also save it as an OGG or OGG file. And the idea being then the browser can pick whichever one it supports the best. They were like alternatives. But I think these days it's hard to imagine a modern browser not being able to support an MP3. So let's go over here and refresh. And despite what I just said, we may have just found one because it's not working. Let me see here.
Can we I know you can go to the editor on a website, but can you look at how a website is coded?
Yeah.
Just
gallery.
No, I always do that. There we go. And let's see if we can find it here. Yeah, it can find it. So it may just be that it doesn't like this. So this is a browser that I've never really used before. This Edge browser. So maybe that's it. Maybe I was wrong in saying, you know what, all modern browsers will be able to handle this, because it's obviously finding it, but it's not showing up in the browser. I mean, I'll do one more thing with it. I don't think this is going to help, but adding the controls attribute. Oh, that's what did it. Amazing. Okay, so never realized that attribute was quite so important. So controls makes the controls show up, and obviously, at least in some browsers, without those controls, the entire audio element won't even be visible. So there we go. And then with those controls, the user can stop and play it. They can scrub the playhead to where they want to play it from, and so on. So other than those little hiccups, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So yeah, cool. That was the trick. So last thing, let's go ahead and go to the video element. Now the video element is, I wound up saving this as an MP4. It started out as an MOV file, a .mov file. And we wound up at 46 megs, which is not bad for streaming video. I've definitely seen files a lot bigger than that. But if you can get it down around 50 megs or less, then you're in pretty good shape, I think. And yeah, this wound up being the 1080, which with the website, the web app that I was using, that is the Instagram size. So if you did like the Facebook size, I guess Facebook can do HD, so it wound up staying at 1900, which wasn't really helpful. Let's go ahead and get this guy in here. Okay, so the section ID equals video. We'll go ahead and do another figure. And by the way, this one has a fig caption, so these could also have fig captions in them. And they're easy enough to get in there, so I'll just go ahead and do it. Hit on. And then within this figure, I'll go ahead and put the fig caption in now. Boy, this audio file and the video file couldn't be in more different genres here. And this is going to be, I forget what the kind of dancing was that the student called it. I used to know, but I can't remember what it is. So I'm just call this various moves, like the name of the video. Okay, so just like there's an audio element, there is a video element. And let's go ahead and jump the gun and put controls on there again. And then we'll do a source just like the audio. So source, and then src equals, and it's inside assets. And this is kind of handy. It's able to find all these in this little contextual menu here, so that's kind of cool. And then type equals video/mpeg, or MP4 rather. MPEG is for the audio one. Okay, and then let's save that, and we'll go back over here and refresh again. And there is the audio file. Now it still comes through pretty big. Remember that this is a 1080, and this is my thumbnail image. So this is actually the same size as the larger image. So could you do a thumbnail image of this? Yeah, sure you could. Just take a snapshot of this, and then take it into the Windows Photo and do exactly the same thing. Create a little thumbnail image, and then when the user taps on it, the video opens up in a new tab. But other than that, yeah. Controls here. Create a file. You made a whole So that's how you do the video files, and there is the code. Mostly pretty straightforward with a couple of hiccups. So any questions about any of this? Okay, cool. So I was just going to, I think I mentioned this in the recording for class. I recommend looking up large images to start with. Even if you think like, oh yeah, I found this website where these are all the images that I already want. They might be really small images or just not even really big images. And what that means is that it might be difficult for you to create consistent dimensions on all of your gallery elements. So even though that's possible, it's not what I recommend. I'd go ahead and, if at all possible, go to the images, google.com, and then slam dancing. No, I better not put that in there. Let's say Baroque music. Baroque music. And then, you can go to the tools here, and you can specify a larger size. And something else I want to call your attention to, a lot of people don't know this here, that you can use usage rights and then go, this is the term I was trying to remember in the recording earlier. I kept thinking open source, and that wasn't it. But Creative Commons licenses is not a guarantee that you're allowed to use them for just anything you want to, but the chances that you're going to get in trouble for it are a lot less than if you just randomly pick images off the web. So yeah, just go to Creative Commons licenses, and then you certainly will be able to use it for like portfolio stuff and educational materials, those kinds of things. So those are things to pay attention to as well. If there's no questions, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.